Where the hell have you been, Lokah?
Great question, Jacob. Lokah, where have you been? Before y'all say I look like the lady from Theranos, I'm so sorry if I'm super quiet in this video. It is currently 1 a.m. so forgive me. I will try my best to project, but I'm not gonna make any promises. Superhero films have had an interesting history in Indian cinema. Some films became the defining highlights of an actor's career, while others ended up as flops. Despite the genre's shaky track record, superhero films have been on a rise, with films like Hanuman and Minnal Murali having massive successes in the box office. But there has never been an attempt for a female superhero in Indian cinema until Lokah follows the story of Chandra, a young woman who's just moved to Bengaluru. She's secretly brought into Bengaluru with fake IDs and passports in tow, and is warned by her acquaintance to keep a low profile. As Chandra finishes up cleaning her apartment, she catches Sunny staring at her from across the building, which is when... And listen, I know that look. That's the I used to love you in a past life and you died tragically look. I just watched Om Shanti Om. I am not a beginner in this field. Chandra moves into a building that happens to be located in front of Sunny, Vinu, and Nigel. 3 unemployed boys who party, drink, get high. The usual, Sunny is immediately infatuated with Chandra and tries his best to talk to her, but he isn't able to because of her standoffish behavior and odd work schedule. One fine evening, Sunny is out and about looking for his cat, which is when... Any of y'all getting deja vu? Until this point, the audience only gets small details about who Chandra might be, but on one fine evening, when one of her co-workers is threatened with an acid attack by her stalker, Chandra reveals a portion of her prowess. In most Indian films, the person who's usually the ass whooper is the hero. It's not as satisfying seeing a man beat up a creep, but when a woman does it, just fills up my veins with morphine, Chandra warns her coworker not to tell anyone about the incident and proceeds with her life. Little does she know, the guy she beat up is actually involved with a organ trafficking gang in the city and is also involved with the police, specifically Nachiappa. Nachiappa as a villain in this film is really interesting, and the way they set up his character is fantastic. A young woman is out late at night walking to her boyfriend's house when a group of men who are a part of the organ trafficking gang start following her in an attempt to kidnap her. As she starts to speed walk and turn a corner, there's luckily a police car there, which causes the goons to run off. Initially, there's this sense of relief. The girl has the police around, so all is safe. But as Nachiappa starts to question her, you kind of get the feeling that, hey yo, maybe the goons weren't that bad. Before he does anything too extreme, his superior pulls up. And what does she happen to be? A female. But this is where they really take Nachiappa's character an inch further. Upon her arrival, Nachiappa refuses to salute her until she explicitly states so. Not only is this guy sexist, but he also hates the fact that there's a woman out there who has more power than him. And this is what makes him the perfect villain for Chandra. These little intricacies are the work of the co-writer of the script, Shanti Balachandran, a fellow female. I loved watching her talk in all her interviews. It's very clear that she's super conscious of how this film comes off in a feminist lens. In an interview, the director of the film, Dominic Arun, mentioned that he wanted to include Shanti in the writing process to ensure that there is a female perspective at play, which then prompts the interviewer to ask,
why can't men write feminist movies?
I was there.
And yes, he 1000% can, but Shanti points out,
I have the lived experience of being a woman.
If Lokah was written by 2 men, Chandra being a woman wouldn't play that big of an obstacle in her superhero journey. Frankly, the superhero world would probably be too big or have too many problems for those issues to even be talked about. So Nachiappa would just be some normal cop and Chandra would just end up as a regular superhero. But with these intricacies of gender at play, this not only turns into a bad guy, good guy story, it then turns into a supervillain who hates woman story versus a female superhero, which really makes an interesting dynamic. Sundar, who's the guy that Chandra beats up, tells Nachiappa about the incident and he's in pure disbelief because, I can't believe you let a female beat you up. But after Sundar claims that even Nachiappa would get his ass whooped by this girl, Nachiappa can't help but ask who this woman is and he begins to keep tabs on her. On the other hand, Sunny finally manages to talk to Chandra when they happen to get on the same rickshaw. He even manages to invite her to his friend's birthday party, but he does know that she smells kind of funky and she's got this weird scar on her hand. Something's just sus about her. But when she arrives to the party, yeah. This is the beginning of Sunny and Chandra's friendship, but specifically Sunny's feelings. Unfortunately for Sunny, Nigel, his bestie, his partner in crime, decides to go in for the steal and pursues Chandra as well. The next morning, Sunny wakes up to find that Nigel still isn't home. Sunny is understandably heartbroken and goes over to Chandra's place to inquire about Nigel, and she claims Nigel isn't here. So Sunny's unfortunate reality starts to sink in until Vinu receives a call from Nigel. So this makes Sunny start to suspect that Chandra has done something terribly wrong to Nigel. So Sunny and Vinu come up with a plan. Sunny will follow Chandra to make sure that she's going to work, while Vinu will break into Chandra's apartment to find Nigel. Sunny and Vinu split off, which is when... As Sunny follows Chandra, he sees Sundar and his gang kidnap Chandra after sedating her. So Sunny has no choice but to follow along, cause come on bro, you're the man here. And when Chandra finally wakes up to find Sundar looking at her with his ratty, beady little eyes, she's revealed to be... Okay, I am invested. Sign me up. This is my Avengers, my Star Wars, my light, my moon, everything in between. I really love this sequence in the film, but it has caused some polarized reactions, and that's mainly because of the way it's intertwined with the story. The way they introduce Chandra's backstory is a little jarring, but I completely understand why they did it. We get this brand new character who basically explains the myth of Kalyankattu Neeli to his granddaughter. Kalyankattu? Kalyankattu? Kalyankattu. The explanation of Chandra's backstory is intertwined with her fight with Sundar and his gang in modern day. Now, do I agree this is a little jarring? Yes, but hear me out. It is such a clever way to establish that to non-Kerala folks, non-Malayali folks, that the legend of Kalyankattu Neeli isn't just some made-up fiction. This is a myth that has been told throughout the generations. So anyone who is Malayali probably heard this story from their parents, their grandparents, and those grandparents heard it from their grandparents. So it's a very clever way to establish that this is an existing myth, and that's such a lovely way to reveal that to a non-Malayali audience. This is ultimately what makes Lokah a fantastic film for me. One thing I've noted about a lot of Indian superhero films is that they tend to follow a Western template and gather a lot of Western influences. Their inspirations often stem from films like Spider-Man or Superman, but the thing about these characters is that they're often rooted in some sort of existing mythology that's important to the West. Let's take Superman for example. The basis for his powers and backstory mainly derive from the story of Moses, a key figure in the Bible, and Hercules, a key figure in Greek mythology. What I feel has been absent in Indian superhero films in general is this connection to mythology. How are we gonna have some of the richest mythology in the world and just let it rot out there? We need to use that stuff. But we are now actually seeing a wild shift in the way Indian superheroes are being illustrated, with films like Hanuman, which basically illustrates the clash of the Western concept of superheroes and the South Asian concept of superheroes, or films like Minnal Murali, which are kind of a bridge between the two. We're getting superhero films that are rooted in our culture. So what is Chandra, aka Kalyankattu Neeli's backstory, according to Lokah at least? After attracting the wrath of a king, young Neeli and her village go into hiding at a cave nearby. When exploring the cave, Neeli happens upon a mysterious statue. As Neeli explores the statue, she's surrounded by a swarm of bats and gets bitten. At the same time, the king manages to find Neeli's village hiding in the cave, so he captures them all. The king ties everyone up and starts killing them off one by one. Neeli's father is killed before her eyes, and as she attempts to retaliate, Neeli is also killed. But not so fast, kiddos, because Neeli manages to kill everyone that gets in her way, but unfortunate for her, the king manages to get to her mother first, and
I hope they are watching. They'll see, and they'll know.
Yeah. As she dies, Neely's mother tells her that God's given her a gift to protect people like them and to use it for good. So with her mother's dying words, Neely goes off into hiding, protecting the forest dwellers by killing evil men to quench her thirst. That is until the Kantanar comes into play, a Christian priest who's been sent by the village people to essentially tame Neely. The Kantanar visits her cave and captures her. After bringing her to his hideout, he informs her that there are other people out there like her, but not all of them are good. The Kantanar then requests Neely's aid to help him defeat these evil forces in the world. So this basically kickstarts Kalyankatte Neely's journey to protect the world as a whole. Using existing myths and folklore from Kerala isn't the only thing that makes Lokah great. It's also the way that they've modernized it as well. In the original myth, the legend of Neely the Yakshi tells the tale of a beautiful woman who gets cheated on and killed by her husband. Seeking vengeance, she returns as a Yakshi, a supernatural being who seduces and destroys men. With her beauty, Neely lures travelers into the forest to kill them. This causes chaos and fear amongst the villagers, so they seek out the help of the Kantanar, a legendary Christian priest who's known for exorcising spirits. He confronts Neely and discovers that her rage doesn't come from a source of pure evil, but of betrayal and suffering. So he decides then that instead of destroying her completely, he's going to cleanse her spirit of vengeance and bind her spirit within a brass vessel so she can be worshipped amongst the villagers, so that her spirit can be appeased through worship. Now, there are a lot of differences between the myth and the one that's shown in Lokah, but there's one key change that I think really impacts the film as a whole. In Lokah, Neely is inherently good. Despite all the tragedies she's faced, she chooses goodness over evil. In the myth, however, Neely, rightfully so, is a vengeful spirit, but she only becomes good through the intervention of a man. This kind of upholds the idea that women can only be good or revered or powerful if a man grants it. In the myth, the man ultimately gets the power because he essentially tames Neely to be good. In Lokah, however, the Kantara stands as an equal and a friend to Neely and even asks for her help to defeat an evil force. The Kantara recognizes Neely's power and therefore gives her power back. These changes do come from the co-writer of the script, Shanti Balachandran, who makes a very conscious effort to ensure that Neely is seen as the hero of the film. One of the key changes that Shanti Balachandran vouched for was the story with the Kantanar. This was a change that she specifically cited as causing some discussion when writing the script, but ultimately it was a great one. This change cements the idea of Chandra being a superhero. She's inherently good and isn't forced by anyone to be good. What I also love about Lokah is that there's this lovely chain of goodness that gets passed on from woman to woman, whether it be the fact that Neely gets her moral code from her mother, and Neely's curiosity in this mysterious female statue is the catalyst to her getting bitten. It's a very...
Hello?
Yeah, if you know, you know. When you have a female-led superhero film, it's really easy to overlook these small little details, but it really does make an impact. Let's take a look at Wonder Woman, for example. Despite being the highest-grossing female-led superhero film, Wonder Woman has still received a lot of critique for its poor representation of feminism. I'm not gonna get into her costuming, but let's look at her original myth. In the original story, Hippolyta, Hippo, a woman longing for a child, sculpts a baby out of clay. Hitting her state, a group of Greek goddesses such as Aphrodite, Athena, and Demeter grant the clay baby with life, gifting her with beauty, wisdom, and strength. In the MCU version, however, Zeus and Hippo have a wild little one-night stand and they get Wonder Woman. And they make the clay baby story up as cover-up for their one-night stand.
Oh my god, bro.
Disgusting!
This might not seem like a big deal at first, but with the MCU version, Wonder Woman is only powerful because of a man. There isn't this beautiful story of a bunch of goddesses coming together to be like, hey, we feel bad for this girl, let's give her a baby. It took me a while to recognize why this change is so significant, and the only thing I could kind of compare it to is the white savior complex. If you look at a lot of these white savior films, they kind of portray a world in which people of color can only gain freedom or liberation if there is a white person there to help them out. Sure, the message might be good, but this still puts white folks on a pedestal and people of color down here. So when you have a bunch of films where a woman only gains freedom because of a man, or that she only gets her powers because of a man, this all kind of places the idea that a woman can only be free if there is a man involved, which still puts the men at top. But this is why I have so much respect for the changes made in Lokah. They could have just stuck with the original myth and ran with it because that would have been more accurate to the legend itself. But by including this change with the Kantanar, you do really get this lovely superhero film with a bunch of powerful women coming together to create this lovely human being, Chandra herself. The rest of the film follows Chandra, Sunny, Nigel, and Minu as they get chased down by the cops because they're eventually pinpointed out for the murder of Chandra's little victims from earlier. Nachiepa turns out to be the lead investigator of the case, and he essentially uses it as an excuse to investigate this mysterious woman he's heard about all throughout the film. I will say I was a little disappointed with Nachiepa's character arc throughout the end of the film. During his pursuit for Chandra, Nachiepa actually ends up getting bitten by Chandra in the film, which then causes him to also turn into a vampire. So he basically becomes the antithesis of Chandra. This is a lovely setup because you literally get two polar opposites coming together to fight in the end, but his villainy kind of becomes a little template. I think a lot of Nachiepa's decisions throughout the first half of the film alludes to the fact that these are his beliefs. I mean, the pure fact that he decides to become a police officer, and as a crooked one at that, should reveal a lot about his character. I think my main problem with this is that Lokah's been very good at showing us stuff instead of telling us stuff. And when near the end, the villain of the film is just going around about, I'm evil, so evil. It kind of makes Nachiepa's character a little bit gimmicky for me, but a lot of the character development that went into him specifically, I feel is absent from a lot of villains in general in Indian cinema. Like, Nachiepa isn't just evil through his actions, his mindset is evil too. The fact that he won't even salute to his higher up because she's a woman. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like it's gonna be super hard to beat Nachiepa as a villain, and here's why. Very often in a lot of Indian cinema, they often rely on the villain's actions to scare the audience. So they do hella stereotypical stuff like, I'm gonna kill your sister. But with Nachiepa, there's super small intricacies that make him just like a complete shithead. And when he gets those powers, it's also exciting because you see this hella unlikable guy become this massive threat to the world, and you just can't wait for all hell to break loose. Now, even though there are all these fantastic things about Lokah, I have been actively avoiding any videos related to Lokah because in an interview, my guy, Dominic Arun, who said that people have watched the film so many times, they've essentially pieced together the entire plot of the Lokah trilogy. I'm sitting there like, okay, great, I'm never watching Lokah again because I don't want to pick up on that detail. But I had to rewatch it for the sake of this video, and why is the entire plot explained in the first 5 minutes of the film? After Chandra escapes from this mysterious group called the Ishtar, we get this lovely animated sequence, which is sick, it's beautiful, but upon rewatching, it's very clear this is not just some random animated sequence. This animated sequence is basically the Lokah Bible. There is essentially this planet, this alien planet, that sends off a mercenary to Earth. And this alien man meets the Ooga Boogas on Earth and shows them little magic tricks. One of them being fire, okay? He essentially teaches the Ooga Boogas the way of his planet, and zooms off, I think. At least his homies zoom off. His alien homies zoom off, and he decides to stay back because vibes? From what I understand, this is where things get a little messy. There is some war between the Loken who stayed on Earth and the baddie from the alien planet. Okay, actually now is when things get really messy because then we cut to a bunch of scuba divers finding this little capsule, this alien capsule, and then we cut back to a bunch of villagers surrounding this alien capsule, which actually contains the Loken woman, the queen from the alien planet, is in there, okay? So I don't know, oh, maybe she's like, maybe they hid her? Or maybe they found her, but then I'm like, why would scuba divers be in the same timeline that, like, villagers are in? Like, we then cut to a bunch of little children who seem to be of Loken descent, and they essentially have vampire powers. They're going around biting, eating, doing everything you really can, which is when we cut to Dulquer Salman amongst some wolves and an alien ship in the background. So only info we have about Dulquer Salman's character is that he's referred to as Mutin, aka the Elder One, and that he's also Jesus. I honestly don't know what happens after that. We get some king lore? I have no clue, but my theory is... Actually, this is not a theory. I think this is basically confirmed. The vampire powers come from some alien. I'm a little mad that I now know the whole Lokah Bible because of my inquisitive mind. Yes, but I can just say that I'm super excited because it's very clear that they've thought out every single detail. There is already so many Easter eggs in this one film. I am so excited to see what the rest of the franchise holds. I have 5 films to look forward to. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought. I will see you guys in the next video. As always, Unbiz here. Take care, kiddos.